Hello, everybody, and welcome to the January 2021 AutoCrossR.com podcast. This is Jason Bottenfield. I started racing in 2020, the year of the COVID. So, everything was pretty interesting throughout the year. And I thought that, in doing a recap here as my main circuit that I race in is the Optima Ultimate Street Car, but there's nothing more enjoyable than doing your local autocross. A lot of autocrossers out there. I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and we have quite a few events, whether it's SCCA, Equip Rapide, a lot of other unique car clubs that put on their own little autocross, BMW being one of them. And so it's really unique opportunity because we got some pretty cool courses here in the DFW area and also some pretty big lots. Last year, TMS usually has the opportunity to let us go out there and run on the bus lot. But, due to the COVID, there was most, if not all events, didn't get run out there. There might've got one in early on in 2020, but my car didn't get built. Wasn't really finished until February of 2020. So I didn't get to experience it out there, but did get a lot of other local races in and got 4 Optimal Ultimate Street Car Series races in my rookie year. So, versus having someone on to talk, which is what we'll have in the coming months, I really wanted to kind of focus on, what's it like, coming into, a series like Optimal Ultimate Street Car. I know not everyone gets the chance to do it, but I thought I'd just give my take on it, and then we'll talk throughout the year on autocrossing in general and things of that nature, especially as a new person to the whole genre of autocrossing and also mixing road course and other things in like you have to do with the Optima Ultimate Street Car Series. So, the first thing, I would say is, I had some pretty good success in the 2020 season for Optima. But it wasn't without doing a lot of practice, locally. Unfortunately, my first event was out at Pikes Peak, and that event was in July. So I might have gotten 1, maybe 2 local autocross events underneath my belt, and I got 1 road course event out at Eagles Canyon. But being a new driver, I think as some may be able to attest, or some may not be as humble to say out there is, I wasn't very good. And, when you're dealing with a new build and you're trying to learn the car, and, I think I was more of definitely a novice driver. All in our own heads, we feel like that we're better drivers than we are. When you really get into this kind of grassroots racing, nobody essentially is really getting paid a lot of money. We're not necessarily professionals, but there are some professionals that are driving in the series. But, for people like me that are just grassroots, I don't own my own shop. So, I'm just good enough to do a lot of the work. But with the build that I created, I definitely had to have a good shop behind me. Dussault Designs is the shop here in Louisville. Mike Dussault is a 2-time Optima Series champion, 2018, 2019. So, having some of that to fall back on was helpful. So, I would say that, some people wouldn't necessarily have that type of expertise to ask questions of, to help, and to necessarily kind of, help you boost your confidence when you're not very good. But I will say to that fact, once you get out there and, do the first race and, learn the ropes of the Optima Ultimate Street Car Series in live action, you can read about it, you can hear about it. Jimmy Day does some good podcasts before each race. I'd highly recommend those because, they really give you some tips on what to expect from a logistics standpoint. So, there's going to be a lot going on with the race day over a 2-day period. What you don't want to do is you don't want to have, the fear of logistics, what should I be doing with tech and things of that nature. And some of that, I think I'll try to unpack here in this conversation today, but, just in general, just go do it. I got a little bit of some TV time this year with the Lucas Oil Racing TV that comes out and films. And then, ultimately is produced and put out there on MAV TV. There's one comment that I had, and I just said, just do it, almost like a Nike commercial or something, but it really is true. You go out there, and what I really realized was, Mike was there for the Pikes Peak race, and so I got some help on what I needed to be doing and where I needed to be. But ultimately, driving, you've got to do it yourself. You can get some tips, but you got to get the seat time. Everybody always says you can put all the modifications on a car, but if you don't have the driver mod, in between the steering wheel and the seat, you can have the best car out there. And a lot of people do have great cars and, exotics and classics and well-built cars. Mine's pretty well built, but the driver mod just wasn't there, but I had to build on that. And so having him there helped. But really the second race that I ran was Road America. Big course, tried to get some practice in before, didn't get on a road course, just did the local autocross. But, that was a intimidating course to be hearing that you're going to be going 150 to 170 if you can get up there quick enough out of the corners on the front straightaway. That was a little bit intimidating for somebody like me that, maybe I've gone that fast in Mexico on the streets, but I've never gone that fast and had to do a right-hand turn. So at the end of going 154 or 160 miles an hour and having to slow down and do a right-hand turn before you come in contact with a wall or something, that's a whole different thing, So, I was a little bit intimidated. Mike Dussault wasn't there to help, but the reason I bring that up is that I met people at the first race, and I've continued to meet people at the other races, and they're there to help you. They're not standoffish. They may have their own racing going on, so they can't necessarily wrench on your car, but in between the days, in between the runs, everybody's there to kind of just share some information. And I think, if you'll put yourself out there and kind of talk to those individuals, you really get some good insight on what's going on. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's, the fastest person, the slowest person, whatever. I think just sharing what you're doing out on the course is great. And that puts me back to, what do you do when you come into the Optima Ultimate Street Car Series and, you don't really know how fast you are. I mean, you could be extremely fast. You could be, been racing for 15, 20 years. Some people have, and this may be their first event at the Optima. I hadn't been racing for 0 years and I had zero experience. And so they have classifications, which are, they have a novice and, they have an intermediate and they have expert. So pretty typical to some of how like SCCA and some other places do it. That novice is really beneficial in that, there's people out there that are your pace. And the thing is that if you're running in the novice group, there's not a whole lot of expectation that, you need to be pushing it to your limits. So you're allowed to go to your limits. You're allowed to make, the speed or go as fast as you want into the turns. And people aren't really pushing you around because usually in the novice, there's only one area to pass, and that's usually on a long front straightaway. So it's pretty safe, and within reason, everything goes pretty well. And you really just don't feel pushed around. I know I went out to some local tracks and I was maybe in the novice, I believe, but there's people out there that they stay in novice and they've been racing there for a long time and they kind of push you around. I think, they're scared to make the leap to intermediate, but they're, the big gun in the novice. And so, whatever may happen, the Optima Ultimate Street Car, novice on the road course is really beneficial. And it's not a scary thing per se, but I would say that you want to get on track, a few times before you come out. But if you can't, I don't see why there wouldn't be that big of an issue for you to kind of learn at your first event. So that's one thing to think about, that I think I've heard that scares people from coming out. Obviously it's a big commitment to trailer your car somewhere. Could be 10, 12, 20 hour drives. And, is it going to rain? Is it going to get in? I raced in 2 rain events this year, the last 2 events, and, never done that either. So I kind of got everything underneath my belt this year with rain events, trying to figure out what tires were great, because, you have to, that's a big part of it. And that's one of the things that I kind of took for granted a little bit was, you have a really fast car, but if you don't have the right tires, if you're not, maintaining, PSI and air pressure on the tires, that can have a big influence on whether you're going to have the performance out of the car or not. So, there's some things to unpack there. And I think, in later series is that, I'll ask more of the experts, about that. I'm dangerous enough to, run my tires at a certain level, but I check them and try and get them here, but I'm not the ultimate tuner tweaker person that knows exactly what I should be doing for the exact conditions. So I'm just trying to put myself in the most favorable aspect of where the pressure probably should be, so that I'm using and getting the most grip out of the tire. But, to that point with the Optima Ultimate Street Car, and that's really kind of the focus today, is for some of you that don't know, it's a 5-element series. So it really puts together the autocross aspect that a lot of people race and is a little bit more familiar with, especially with our AutoCrossR.com family. But you also have road course, which is, big on track road courses where you're going high speed and making those late braking, hard turns. And then you have an aspect that I'm not sure, and being new, maybe there are some other series that do run it, but you have the speed stop. And what the speed stop is, let's say it's an 1/8 mile or less, straight kind of drag race. You're kind of mirrored and you're running down, and then you're doing a 180 turn and coming back, about 3/4 of the way, and you've got to stop in a 20 by 40 box, and you can't hit the cones. So if you blow through the cones, you don't get the time. And all of this is time. So there's no really wheel-to-wheel racing except for on the road course when you need to do a pass. That's about the only time you're going to be doing wheel-to-wheel. The autocross obviously is a timed event where you're running through the cones. And then the last part, or the second to last part, is the road rally, which is really just showing that your car is a street car. So you've got to run, sometimes 30 to 45 minutes round trip to a specific location and show that your car can be on the street, and that, if you do get pulled over and you are a race car, they're going to, ding your license. And so they've got a simple but unique way to make sure that if you do get stopped for speeding or whatever reason, you'll lose basically half your points because of that situation. So, that's pretty easy, but there are occasions where people's cars just, the battery won't work or something happens, because you are racing them before you go do this at the end of the day. So that happens at one of the days at the end. And then you have D&E, which, D&E is kind of that's the linchpin. That's the thing that makes this series a lot different than, a lot of others, I believe. And, like I said, being new, I'm a little bit naive to, I really love the Optima series, but, there's other series out there. But I think putting all the elements together, like I'm talking about, the D&E is design and engineering. So, it's a situation to where you can't have a full race car that the windows are leaking, it's Lexan glass. You got to have full glass. You got to have interior. You've got to have, like on my car, my trunk is, I've got some pretty technical applications back there, if you will. The dry sump tanks back there. I've got jack bolts to jack up the rear end of the car on the track if I wanted to without messing with the shocks. And I've also got an air oil separator. But, those are more technical items, right? They're not beauty items. So sometimes what they're looking for in the D&E is, they're looking for that technical, that geometry setup, but they're also looking for, does it look good? And, in a lot of race cars, you really are just doing things for the fact of make it fast, so you want to cut out weight, you want to, do this or that or the other. but it doesn't look that good. And, so you can't do that in the D&E portion of the Optima Ultimate Street Car, because if you do, you're not going to get the points to win, and, my goal coming into this, and I think everyone's goal should be, try to be mid-pack, and even if you are last, that's okay. That's something to build on. But that was my goal. I wanted to be mid-pack at every race. I wanted to come in and say, hey, and I didn't think I would, that was like a top number one finish for me, is if I was mid-pack. If there's 25 people out there, that I'm 12, 13, 14, somewhere around there, that, I feel like I'm mid-pack and I'm building up. And so, that's a goal to set, and I think it can be done. But again, the D&E, you've got to have the points there. Otherwise, you could win every aspect, every element. And if you don't have the D&E, you could end up, even if you're number one on everything, you could end up mid-pack just because of that. So that adds a pretty unique element to this series. And I think that's why the series was born, really, from SEMA. And that's the goal. Nobody's really getting cash. There were some opportunities in 2020 due to COVID to win some cash at the end of the year. But the big opportunity for the Optima Ultimate Street Car, I think, just for myself, outside of the fact of having fun racing and being around everyone, that it's so enjoyable to do that, for sure. That's why you're in it. But that kind of crescendo goal for the year is to get to the Optima Ultimate Street Car Invitational. And that Invitational basically has been held, every year since, I believe, 2014-ish, maybe a little earlier than that, after really SEMA. And, the series, I believe, started in 2009. But the difference between the series then is that you actually had to have your car shown at SEMA, and then you got an invite to be a part of the Optima Ultimate Street Car. So now it's an opportunity to where obviously the public can get in, and registration's open right now. It opened up December 28th of 2020. So, this is January 2021. So some of the courses are filling up, like Road America may be full. But I know that, if you reach out to Jimmy Day, Adam Hanna, some of these individuals that are on the website, you might get some more information from them on, is it full, and can you get on a reserve list? Because there'll probably be some people that back out, can't make it, things come up, those types of things. So Road America is my favorite course to date. COTA was great and that's where we had the Optima Ultimate Street Car Invitational for 2020. And I go back to that because usually it's at SEMA, usually it's at Las Vegas Motor Speedway after SEMA's over, and then they run this Invitational. And, but this year with the COVID, Las Vegas was kind of shut down. So there wasn't really a lot of opportunity for people to do anything in the Vegas area, and all the venues were shut down as well. So our series had to make a pretty big decision and say, where do we go? And so they did. And that's what I like about the series is Optima, is the top, kind of the top line sponsor, if you will. Advanced Auto Parts is a major sponsor as well. And then there's a lot of other sponsors that sponsor throughout the organization. But Optima really had to come in with a serious amount of cash and rent the COTA Speedway down in Austin, Texas. So, not too far from me. So it was a good opportunity to not have a long drive. But, I know that's it's a top course. It's a top track. It's a Formula One track built for them, specifically for Formula One. So it's fast, it's big, long turn, long straights, windy turns, pretty technical for somebody who's new like me, but also pretty doable. And I think that's probably why even racing there that I still like Road America is because it's a little less technical and, but fast and big. But there are some technical components to it to go fast. But, for somebody who wants to go fast, but also, keep it on the course, I really like, Road America this year. So that's why I bring it up. If you can get out there, it's a long drive. I've never been to basically the Wisconsin area, but the state, it's a pretty cool area up there. A lot of cheese trucks, a lot of Sargentos. But so the ultimate goal is to get to that Optima Ultimate Street Car Invitational. A lot of times, you can try to point in, you don't have to win. If you get enough points, and it's kind of, you're ranked against your peers, it's whoever's come out there and whoever's winning and getting those points. And that's why I mentioned earlier about the D&E. You've got to have that D&E to get those points. But so you're trying to do your best 3 races to get the points. So, to get into OUSCI versus going to one of the events and winning, which is possible, and people do that, is you've got to do at least 3 of the races out of, I think there's about 7 every year. And so last year I did 4. I had the opportunity to get second at an event. And so what happens is if the person that got first already has an invite from another event, say they won first place, which happened quite often in 2020 with CB Ramey, who ultimately won it all, but he's in the GTV class with me and all of us, everyone else that's in there. And so every event that he was at, and he's a great guy, and one of those people that I was talking about that really gives you that help if you need it, and is really there for you. He's a long time, racer, autocross, most of his racing career, I believe, but, does a lot of road course work, but ultimately in his blood, he's an autocrosser. And I know he said before, that's why he feels so confident on road courses. Things get squirrely, things get, out of shape. Well, that's every day on an autocross track. I mean, you know what happens to the car when it gets out of shape and how to control it within reason, right? So he's always pretty confident, and he goes super fast, out there. But, what happened was he won, I got second, and I picked up the invite to the OUSCI. So, I was hoping to get the points to get in. I think I was in a pretty good race to do that. I was earning, my first race was tough. My second race, I did pretty well at Road America. The third race at NOLA was where I got, second place. And I really, I got in to the invite. And so I was super happy. I had one more race and I was already into the Invitational. So it was awesome. But, I went into the last race going out to NCM, which is basically the Corvette Museum track, and out in Bowling Green. And, I still wanted to keep building on what I've done. So, I was middle of the pack, and then I was moving up, and then I got second, which is just, phenomenal for me. And then, moving forward to the NCM race, CB Ramey wasn't there. He had something to prepare on his car. So it was kind of up for grabs once that happened to whoever showed up, right? I mean, there's a good many people that are faster than me. But, with it being out there in Kentucky, some of the really fast people are on the other side of the state, and they've already done multiple races through the year. So they weren't planning to do the last race before the Invitational. I mean, you don't want to break your car, 3 or 4 weeks before the Invitational, which is the big crescendo event. So we had a good group of people out there. It did rain, but, I ended up running pretty hard, and I got the win. I already had the invitation, but I got a win, got the trophy right back here. That's kind of a paper trophy. I got a more physical trophy as well, which is pretty cool. But that was super exciting. That was exciting for me. I will say that as nervous as I was coming into my first race at Pikes Peak, and really maybe the second race, because I didn't really have, much expectation at Pikes Peak. I just kind of wanted to get my feet wet. But Road America, I was super nervous, and things were going super fast. And if you've played sports before, or really maybe done anything competitively, that when things are going really fast, if it seems like it's just boom, 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 that's when you're inexperienced. That's when you don't have the experience and you're not confident in what you're doing. When things are going super fast, that's why all the best athletes always say, the game's slowing down for me. It's really slowed down. And if you can slow down what you're doing in a competitive format, if everything's just real slow, and when things are slow, what can you do? You can focus, you can execute on the things that you're trying to do. And, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet with the racing. So, things were kind of moderate for me coming into the NCM race. And then once, I was like, look, I've got my invite. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to try and build on my driving skills. I'm going to do all the things I needed to do. But I came into that race with a clear head and a clear focus. And I went out confident. I went out wanting on a purpose to win, but didn't really think that I could. But I was still going for it, but I was really relaxed. I was really confident. And so, I went out and, the first day I was basically leading. And so the second day had to put the speed stop and the road course together to ultimately win it. I knew I'd compete well with the D&E. I had been really practicing super hard. That's about the only thing that, you can practice and know how you're going to do pretty much. Because, it doesn't have anything to do with driving or tires. It has everything to do with communication and just practicing really, what are the key factors of the car and how do you get them out in 4 minutes? That's the other thing I didn't mention in the D&E. You got 4 minutes. You have to figure this out and tell them what you think. I did get some good advice early, either it was from Mike or everyone else, and probably Mike, he was really good at D&E, score 100 all the time, which is tough, is talk about the things in the car that they can't see. They can see that there's Forge line wheels on there. They can see that you're running Yokohamas or BFG rivals. They can see that stuff. So tell them about the geometry. Tell them about the things that they don't see, the things that are actually in the car that unless they are up on a lift, they're not going to see it. And they may know about it, but if they can't see it, they're not going to give you the benefit of it. So you're really trying to compete on that level. But as I think about it, and as I go back to that NCM race, I was super comfortable the first day, but then it was like, wow, this is a reality that I could potentially win. Things sped up again. It was super fast. I mean, I didn't feel like I could catch my breath. I didn't feel like, I knew really what to do or what was going on. You always have this thing in your head. You try to map out, your speed stop runs. Either maybe get one in early or get them in right after you get off the road course so the tires and the brakes are heated up. All those things were just running through my head and I'm just all over the place. It was just so fast. I've never been in contention to win, obviously. It was my first year and things speeded up so much. And that's what I was talking about was, in your first year, your expectation is not for that, but that is very rewarding whenever, you're competing. And I like that. I played some baseball and I really like the ability to compete and put into kind of the frying pan, and make it or break it. And that's basically what it was. But it is not, I would say, because I'm new, it's not as fun to be trying to go for first place, but it's very rewarding at the end when you do it. So while you're doing it, it's very stressful. It's very taxing mentally, even though road course is taxing mentally anyway. So add all that on there, new driver, road course, super fast. We had rain, kind of light rain conditions, the first part. And so the track's not totally dry, trying to go faster, knowing who's faster than you that's out there, because what I did was I moved up from novice to intermediate. So, and that was something that really helped me. If I didn't do that, the novice, you're setting the pace. If you're fast in the novice, you're going to be setting the pace for everybody else. In the intermediate, I'm not fast enough to set the pace. I mean, I probably maybe should be or could be at some point, but right now I'm not. So I'm getting pulled around by faster people that aren't in my GTV class. They're in the other classes. So I'm trying to win my class. And I think that maybe I should take a step back and say that I didn't win the whole thing. I was trying to win my class. And so, which is the vintage class, 89 and under cars. And so, I'm out there with whatever, all-wheel drive Porsches, all-wheel drive this and that, just faster cars, faster drivers, really. It's, my car's fast enough. It's just the driver, but faster drivers. And so I got pulled around the track a little bit, but I could keep up with them. I know what I could do. I know I could perform. I just don't have the gusto to do it just yet. And I'm still working on a lot of things, but that was helpful. And so that's what I was talking about early on about the novice, is that you don't have to move up until you're ready. I felt like I was ready. I had 3 races underneath my belt in the novice. I had some success and I was doing well. I felt comfortable. I felt like, look, if I'm the last one in the intermediate, fine. But, you can tell like what my times were at novice and what the last person in intermediate was at the other races. And you can kind of start to position yourself. And I think that the people in the event will do that as well, is, say, hey, we think you're ready too, because they don't let you just do it. They've got to check off on it too. So that was really helpful. And so I got my first win there. So I guess the moral of the story is that it's all doable. I think I'll probably put another podcast out on really what you need to go to these events whenever you're leaving. When I do the local autocross stuff and we all do that, we'll bring trailers or maybe we'll drive in or whatever, but you feel more comfortable because you're close. Maybe you're 2 hours away at the most, or maybe you're 20 minutes away. But whenever you're going 12, 15, 20 hours away, you better have the gear you need to succeed, and you better have some spare parts. So I think I'm going to do another version, just a little bit on this Optima Ultimate Street Car. I know it's not for everyone, but I did want to put it out there for those people that are looking at potentially setting up their schedule here in January for that type of, for the Optima series and scheduling some events there. So I thought I'd put these first 2 out on the AutoCrossR.com podcast based on Optima in general. And then we'll maybe hopefully down the road get some local autocrossers. Maybe Mike Dussault will come on and chat. Would love to get CB Ramey, the reigning champion of Optima Ultimate Street Car, on, because he is an autocrosser at heart. So get some tips from him. But I think my next one will be on really kind of focusing on, what did I learn through the year autocrossing locally and in the Optima series, on what's the gear I need? What are the spare parts to kind of think about? Because I'd never had to think about any of that stuff before, because I wasn't a racer. I wasn't thinking, hey, I need backup alternator, power steering pump, stuff like that. And then just in general, just the items to have in your trailer, what to have, what to have on hand. And so I think that's pretty important too, because that will help your confidence as well, because the stuff I brought to the first race coming into Pikes Peak was some of the items that I thought I needed during the local autocrosses. And so once I got there, everything from having the wrong tires on my trailer, quote unquote, the China bomb tires that could explode, and just other things to think about that the other racers have gone through, if you have a blowout and things like that. So hopefully I can provide some of that feedback, and hopefully this was rewarding for people that might be thinking about going into the Optima Ultimate Street Car series this year. Just do it. I'll be out there at 4 races. There'll be many others out there, so if you do go, or if you do have questions or anything like that, I'd be more than happy. I'm extremely excited about the way that the series is set up and what they do. So I think, is it worth it? Is it worth the money to try it? Is it worth the money to take that little bit of vacation and drive out to one of these events? I would say it's extremely worth it. I'm in the personal finance business, do wealth management. I've done that for 17 years or so. And, there's a lot of times that I have to really talk to people, and they have hobbies or dreams or things they want to do, and they kind of put them off. And don't put this off. If this is what you're interested in, if you're a good autocrosser, and you do some track stuff, if you're into that with your vehicle, this is the best series. I mean, it just puts everything together, and it's fun. So I would say, give it a look. We'll talk to you soon. Jason Bottenfield, AutoCrossR.com, and see you down the road.